Why have we come to earth? Do you remember? Why have we taken birth? Do you remember?
Thank you, Mary. And thank you, Damien. Good morning. How are you on this nice, cool, rainy summer day? I'm going to Seattle on Wednesday. They're having a heat wave and complaining about it. It's getting up into the upper 70s there. They're uncomfortable. I'm going to be sitting here going, oh God, 30 degrees colder than where I am. And then I'm spending the first couple days up on the San Juan Islands, which is even 10 degrees cooler. So I just wanted you to plant that seed in your mind. So you can throw things at me now if you want to. I want to say one real quick thing. Mary was talking about classes and that for the summer. And classes are a wonderful way to take this process, to take this teaching and really wrestle with it, really get into it, really develop yourself through it. You know, we get inspired by the talks, but the classes are where we can really dig in and work with the material and find real changes in our lives. You know, you've had that experience. I've watched students have that experience. I've been a student and had that experience. You know, so I would encourage you to find something this summer, one of the classes, and my favorite Will Smith phrase: get jiggy with it. You know, get into the class and have a good time. So I just wanted to say that. Our talk title today is called Power On, which is a really good thing to have right now because the air conditioning is a good thing to have on, right? Power On. We're looking this month at the idea of the secret of life for Emma Curtis Hopkins' sixth chapter from her book, Scientific Christian Mental Practice. She calls it the secret of the Lord. I'm going to get the Lord word out of there, but call it the secret of life. Ralph Waldo Emerson, one of my favorite quotes of his, refers to us. He says, we are inlets and we may become outlets to the divine. We are inlets. What that means is we are always hooked up to Spirit. We're always on. We're always connected with it. Do you know that? Great. We are always connected to it. There's nothing we could ever do to disconnect from Spirit. We may become outlets because we have choice then. The power flows in and we decide what to do with it. Okay, we can dissipate it, we can pretend it's not there, or we can use it to create wonderful things in our lives and the lives of the world and other people. So, other people in the world. We have that opportunity. The reading is, as Mary said in her prayer, you know, reminds us that we're not creating cucumbers. We're not creating the power. We're using the power. The dictionary definition of power says power represents the rate at which work is performed, or, and this is my favorite part of it, energy is transferred, used, or transformed. You and I are energy transformers. How's that feel? Some great, some kind of like, am I up on a pole here, kind of a little transformer? But we are outlets. We are transformers of that. So how do we become outlets? How do we use it most effectively? First of all is to recognize that we are inlets for an infinite power. You know, it's like if you had a bank account that had $5 million in it and you didn't know it was there, would you be able to use it? Would you be likely to use it? Okay? No. So it's good to know, first of all, that there is an infinite power and that you're one with it. You're connected with it. You got access to it. You've got the passcode. You've got the PIN number. Okay? So do we use it? That power, that nature is what we can use to transform. And then we recognize that we are connected with this power. Emma Curtis Hopkins reminds us Jesus Christ, she uses Jesus as an example, took the premise that from God, he could call all power unto himself to use at a moment. Guess what? You and I are not different from Jesus Christ. He just knew how to use it. He just believed in it and used it better than you or I do, you know, to this day. Okay? He was fully connected and said yes. We unpack a quote from Philippians in a few minutes here that really talks about that. But we recognize we're connected, and we use that power. Again, if we don't know that, we don't use it. So that's the first thing, is to recognize that one, there is a power, and two, we're connected to it. We're expressions of it. We are, it's like the sunlight, the rays of the sunlight coming off of the sun. We are that. You know, I love, I think it was Sri Aurobindo who used the metaphor of we are like a vase in the bottom of the ocean that's filled with water, and all around us is more water. We're just the individualization of that infinite water. Okay? So we are the individualized usage of the infinite power that surrounds us. We get to play with it in whatever way we want to. Isn't that cool? Thank you. I know this is the quiet service, but we'll wake you up a little bit here. I know you are, Luke. Thank you. So what's our process in doing this? Number one, my favorite Emerson quote, we get our bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuits. Take a breath. I don't know about you, but I have some bloated nothingness that sometimes gets in my way. Our small thinking acts as a resistor in the circuit, in the system. When we're not thinking big enough, you know, we got a power that's sitting there, you know, there's that wonderful image of going to the ocean. You know, the ocean has this infinite amount of water, and we go with a thimble instead of a tanker truck, right? Or a huge barge. Okay? So our small thinking limits the amount of power. It acts as a resistor, and it takes this wonderful, beautiful, huge flow of power and trickles it down to almost nothing. Ernest Holmes told us that if we're using these principles to just get by or cope with our lives, we're misusing the principles. So the question is, how big can you get your dream? We'll talk about that in a minute. Secondly, our ignorance or our disbelief disconnects the circuit. If we don't believe in it, if we refuse to use it, if we say, oh, no, that doesn't exist out there, automatically we just disconnect the circuit. And so then we're not in use of it. So the power is coming in, but we've just stuck a shunt in the middle of it, and it stops. Okay? We want to have the mind with us that was in Christ Jesus. That's that wonderful quote from Paul. Have the mind within you that was in Christ Jesus. And I'm going to unpack a fairly long Bible quote here from his letter to Philip and Timothy. And he says, reason this within you, which Jesus Christ also reasoned. And I want to talk about that. Emma Curtis Hopkins, in her book on scientific Christian mental practice, says, it's not our words, it's our line of reasoning. Lines of reasoning that create the result. And what that means is it's the consciousness behind the words. How many of you have, in your early lives, like me, said a particular prayer that was rote? Just over and over again. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Right, I was Catholic, we got penances, go say 3 Our Fathers and 10 Hail Marys, okay? Do you think I actually put a whole lot of energy into really sitting with that and contemplating what it really meant? Or do you think I just jammed out 3 Our Fathers and 10 Hail Marys so I could run out and play? Okay? So it's not the words. They're brilliant words if you contemplate them and if you take them in, but if we don't have any line of reasoning running behind it, they're just empty words. You can do the same thing with a spiritual mind treatment. You can take the most powerful, most beautiful spiritual mind treatment that you've ever seen and just run it through as a bunch of words, and if you don't understand the lines of reasoning, the consciousness behind it, nothing shifts in your life, because prayer is about shifting our consciousness. So reason this within you, which Jesus Christ also reasoned, who, being in the form of God, did not consider it robbery to be equal with God. I have a friend named Terry McBride who took that passage there. He was in the hospital. He ended up having 27 back surgeries. He had tweaked his back when he was young in a construction job, and they did an operation, and then it got infected with E. coli, and it took several years to get him out of all that process. And they told him at one point in time he would never walk again, and a whole bunch of other things. And he said he read that Bible passage every day, and he says, and if Jesus Christ could do that, and if Jesus Christ thinks of himself as in the form of God, that it's not robbery to manifest what he wants, I'm the same as that. I can do this. And today he climbed Mount Rainier a few years ago. He walks, he talks, he does all that stuff. The colostomy that they told him he'd have for the rest of his life, he doesn't. All that good stuff. Who being in the form of God did not consider it robbery to be equal with God, but made himself of no reputation, and took upon himself the form of a servant in the likeness of men. What that means is, again, we recognize that it is not our power. Jesus every once in a while would say, why do you call me good? It's not me, it's the Father within that does the work. When we start to realize it's the God within us, the Spirit within us that does the work, we become more humble about it. We also become more in touch with where the power truly is. See, most of the time we sit there and think, well, I got to do this. If it is to be, it's up to me. I got to make it happen, right? You've met people like that? Yep. But that's not the truth. That's not really the truth. What we are is energy conductors, energy transformers. We're allowing it to flow through us, and so we get, again, our bloated nothingness, our need for reputation out of the way. So that's what he's describing. He says this is the example that Jesus said. He got himself out of the way, became obedient even to death, and therefore he's completely exalted. He says, and so he goes on to say to his friends, he says, from now on, my beloveds, just as you have always been obedient, not only in my presence, but much more in my absence, obedient to the law, obedient to the principles, obedient to the Spirit within that guides us. That's what we're talking about here. Letting the power flow through. That's the line of obedience. We're letting that power move through us for its highest and greatest good. Just as you have been obedient, work out your own salvation with reverence and trembling. He's not saying go to somebody else for your salvation. He's saying work out your own salvation. Work out your own stuff. Work out your own miracles. Work out your own creating what you want in your life. It's not turning your life over to Jesus. It's taking him as an example and using that process to create our own good. He says, for it is God who inspires you with the will to do the good things which you desire to do. See, oftentimes we sit there and go, well, I have this desire, but who am I? Who you are is a conduit for God. Say that with me. I am a conduit for God. One more time. I am a conduit for God. Okay? You weren't taught that in Sunday school, were you? I wasn't. But it's the truth. For it is God who inspires you with the will to do the good things which you desire to do. Do all things without disputing and doubting. Do all things without disputing and doubting. And where do you think the disputes and doubts really take place? They take place in our mind. They take place within us. Who am I to do that? I don't have the education. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm a girl. I'm a guy. I'm, whatever it is. We have these disputes. We have all this stuff that says, I can't do it. He says, do it without disputing and doubting. So we open to the inspiration of God and we follow it without doubting or disputing. That's a formula for success right there. If we would just open to the inspiration. Inspiration comes from the Latin word inspiro, which means to excite or to breathe. If we open to the breath of God within us, the excitation of God within us, the inflammation, as it calls it, within us, that which gets us going. And then we follow it without doubt or disputing. Now the trick is, this is not always easy. Have you noticed? We like to say this stuff is simple but not easy. The principles are simple. Anybody can understand them. Most of us already do, but it's not easy. Emma Curtis Hopkins. The divine intelligence marks the orbit of distant Canis Major and rounds the little moons of Mars with the same tender care. Divine beauty paints the North Star and the violet with the same impartial tenderness. So, will you be grateful to the man who steals your purse as well as to the Father who provides for your youth? Why? Because God is the life, the spirit, the intelligence of each alike, without difference of goodness from the hand of the Lord. If you have not seen this, it is true just the same. Take a breath. Can we be grateful for the stuff that we don't like in our lives? She's basically saying, can you be grateful for the guy who steals your purse as much as for the person who really helps you out? If we believe that God is all there is and there's divine action happening, how many of you, like me, have had an experience in your life that at the time you said, that was horrible? And 5 years or so later you said, that was the best thing that ever happened in my life. Okay? I remember having I used to be in the 70s a photographer. I worked in LA with the Sierra Club's camera committee and professionally down there. And one day I had my apartment broken into and all my Nikon equipment stolen. and I didn't have a whole lot of money to replace it at the time. I didn't think that was a really good thing, right? I was not happy with those people. I would have killed them if I could find them. Literally. That was before I, kind of knew some of this stuff. But I had just learned how to use the mind to manifest what you wanted through another process. Hadn't taught kindness, but had taught, what. And so I started to let go of the process, let go of the theft, and started to say, okay, I need X number of dollars to recreate the camera equipment I got. And I'm doing that. I'm literally visualizing it one day. I had a process that I was doing, and I get a phone call while I'm visualizing from an insurance company that I'd forgotten about from a couple of years ago that I had a claim with. And suddenly had an amount of money that was larger than what I had asked for. I was able to replace that equipment with better equipment, go to a seminar that I really wanted to do, and a couple of other things with that cash. Okay? Because I got off of the loss. I came out better for having had it stolen. Now, I didn't like the process of that, but I ended up in a better place for it because I kept working with the flow of the power. Okay? So that's what Emma is asking us. Are we willing to see that? Are we willing to not get caught up in, I like to use it as there's a movie running in our lives. Do we get caught up in one still frame out of the movie that doesn't work real well? Or do we allow the movie to continue to run and spirit through us continue to make the movie? Okay? And so we all have stuff happen. Is there anybody here who has not had stuff happen? I'm going to put my hand down in their lives. Okay, good. We all have stuff happen. The question is, what do we do with the stuff? Do we allow the spiritual power to continue to flow through it? So that's what Emma calls us to, is this higher process. So the process that we use to create is the same as outlined in the very first chapter of Genesis, where it says God says, "Let there be," and there was, and He called it good. Okay, that's actually a sacred teaching. That's one of those mystery school teachings that's taught in story form in the Bible. So am I willing to, first of all, turn off the egoic desires, the chatter of my ego, and listen to Spirit for what it wants to manifest through me? See, our ego has all sorts of stuff at once, right? Mine does. More chocolate. A Lamborghini would be nice. I think my favorite example is the Pink Floyd song "Money." It's like I think I need a football team. I think I need a Learjet. It's just that egoic stuff. The question, but that's not what we're talking about here. The question is, what does Spirit want to manifest through me for the greater good of myself and everyone else? So we begin this process first by being willing to do something many of us don't do. Ask. And then something else we oftentimes don't do, listen. Okay? So we ask, what does Spirit want to manifest through me? It's the idea of not my idea, but the higher idea be done. What does Spirit want to manifest through me? And then if I sit and listen long enough, I begin to catch that vision, that inspiration. I begin to get the idea of what it is. And what happens oftentimes, by the way, is Spirit's vision is usually big enough to scare you a bit, to shake up your world a little bit. Anybody ever have that happen? You sit there and go, who, me? I love it. Moses, is a great example, one of my favorite examples out of the Old Testament of the Bible of, God calls him to lead the people out, and he says, you don't want me, you want my brother Aaron. I stutter, and I'm wanted for murder, and all this stuff, And we come up with all these reasons. We come up with all this stuff. Spirit's vision is big enough to start to expand us, to start to shake us up. Yesterday I was working with some people, and we talked about growth, and one of them said, I don't want to grow anymore. I just kind of looked at the person and kind of started laughing and said, well, whether you want to or not, you're going to, because that's just the nature of nature. And when you stop growing, you start dying. Ernest Holmes says evolution is ever forward. We worked it through. The person had some ideas of pain associated with growth, and growth doesn't always have to be associated with pain. It doesn't have to be. But it oftentimes is associated with a little bit of discomfort because we have to shift our ideas. And most of us are very comfortable in our idea of who we are and how the world operates, right? We all know how it does. We all know who we are and how the world operates, right? Each of us, by the way, has a different view of that, but we all know. And what Spirit's vision calls for us is something bigger. We're opening up to an expanded idea of good from what we have. And it takes us out beyond our comfort zone. I was laughing with him yesterday. I said, there's a description of a minister that says the role of a minister is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. And one of the people said, could we just not do that second part? I said, but you don't understand. It's not to hurt people. It's to take that area of our comfort zone that we have been living in, which could also be called our prison, okay, and start to move it out. Start to kick out the wall. Start to expand it so that we can have a larger life. How many people here would like to have a larger amount of good in your life? Yeah. Larger experience. All right. The first thing we have to do is to be willing to allow our comfort zone to start to become more of a permeable membrane than a solid wall, to where we can expand out from it. So this vision will move me out beyond my small thinking. So the first thing we've done is we've begun by asking. Second, we become willing to let it be. Ernest Holmes said, so clearly in the reading, I don't make the cucumber. There's that old story of a bunch of scientists go, have a meeting with God. Hey, God, we got to figure it out. We know how to create a person. We don't need you anymore. We're doing cloning just fine. Thank you very much. Test tubes and all that stuff. And God says, great. Show me how you do that. So I reach down and pick up some dirt, and God says, wait, get your own dirt. We become willing to let it be. We don't have to figure it out. And this is where most people stop in their vision. They can't, quote, figure out how to do their vision. Your job is not to figure out how to do your vision. Your job is to be willing to let that vision come through you. The universe will figure out the how. Are you good with that? Okay, so that frees us up. So most of us, the minute we start getting some sort of a bigger vision, go, how am I going to do that? I don't know how. And we either quit, we start worrying, we start doing all that stuff that shortcuts and pulls down the power level. If I just simply say, you know what, I'm willing to have that happen. I have no idea how that's going to happen, but I am willing to. How many of you have had good come into your lives that you had no idea how it was going to come, and it came from a completely different way than you ever thought it would? Okay? We've all had that experience. So that's what we're being asked to do, is being willing to let it happen, not to figure it out. I have to be that place that makes it welcome or sacred. I have to be the place that makes this vision welcome or sacred. That's all I have to do. And then number three, I bless all of the process. The parts I like, the parts I don't like. The parts I understand, the parts I don't understand, the parts that look like setbacks, the parts that look like forward motion. Emma invites us to, she says, we can be like the person who, when things go well, suddenly they're all happy about their dream and their vision, and when things stop going well, they quit on their vision. Okay? Think about Thomas Edison. 10,000 tries on how to make a light bulb. The Wright brothers trying to figure out how to fly. Henry Ford trying to figure out both mass production and the V8 engine. It took hanging on to a vision for a long time. So we have to hang on to that. We have to bless all of the process no matter what. When somebody asked Thomas Edison after 5,000 tries if he was going to quit, because he'd already tried 5,000 times, he says, no, I just know 5,000 ways not to create a light bulb. It was a positive thing for him. He was just cutting through all the ways not to do it on his way. He knew it could be done. So that's number 3. We bless all the process. Number 4, I hold the vision until it fully manifests. Years ago, the first time I ever went to a religious science church was in Bishop, California. I think I mentioned before that I was so impressed that it took me 5 years before I went to my next religious science church. But it was okay. It wasn't that it was bad. I just wasn't set on fire by it at the time. But afterwards, the minister and I and my fiancée at the time and the person who I was visiting, and we were all, excepting for the minister, had all been involved in this mind seminar, sort of like a solo mind control thing. So we were good on manifesting stuff. Went to the county fair afterwards. Had a humongous parking lot, dirt parking lot, full of all sorts of cars and like that. And we said, well, the 4 of us with our conscience, we should be able to manifest a parking space easily. So we're pulling in, and as we pull in, a car pulls out, and kind of quite a ways out, actually, from the entrance, And they said, let's take this one. I said, what do you mean take this one? With 4 of us, with this kind of consciousness, we should be able to manifest one by the front door up there. And they're kind of like, but there's a good one right here. It's like, so they said, okay, let's give that a shot. Right as we pulled up to the front door, the car pulls out at the entrance right in front, the parking spot at the entrance right in front of the entrance, and we slide right in. The closest parking spot to the front door that was available. That's hanging on to the vision until it fully manifests. Most of us will settle for or quit when we get a little bit of it. Don't. Faith and belief are the attractors that allow the power to flow. Think of a lightning rod that you can install that allows that power to come through you and show up most quickly. Faith and belief are those lightning rods. If you will stand in the faith and if you will stand in the belief that this is going to happen, it's the lightning rod that allows it to happen. It grounds it. It makes it possible. And then finally, when you have that good manifest, behold it as good and say so. Say so. A lot of you have demonstrations in your life that most of us in this church have never heard about because you don't talk about it. Anybody? Yeah, a few heads nodding and one hand up. Okay. I know there's more of you. Because you can't hang around this teaching for this long and not have something happen. Emma Curtis Hopkins invites us to declare it, to speak it, because that's the final step. On the hero's journey, the last step in the Joseph Campbell myth of our idea of the hero's journey is that the hero comes back and brings his or her gift back into the community and gives it back. That's the declaring of the good. Because when I declare that I have used these principles to manifest a good in my life, guess what? It encourages you to be able to do the same thing. When you share the fact that you've used these principles to manifest good in your life, it invites other people and encourages other people to do the same thing. And we all need encouragement along the way. So that's the last step. We bless it and we talk about it. We speak it. So this week I'm going to invite you to do 3 things. Number 1, become aware of the power. Do you know, and I mean really know, that there is an infinite power and presence that you get to use? And are you willing to be open to the possibility of using it? Okay? So it's really knowing this. And I'm going to tell you that you, like me, don't fully know it. You know how I know that? Because we don't have the demonstrations yet. If we all fully knew it, we would be living lives and living in a world that was thriving in every single way possible. Okay? So I invite all of us to not just say, yes, I know this. It's what I call the right religious science answer, yes, I know this. But to go deeper, to get more in touch with it. You know what? I'm willing to learn even more about or have a deeper experience of this infinite power. I'm willing to have it sweep me off my feet, open my heart, open my soul to how good it is. Would you be willing to do that this week? Okay. That's my invitation, to really get to know it in a way to make love with it, to become one with it, to really have that experience. Secondly, become willing to let it manifest through you. So this is the process where we ask, what is Spirit's highest idea for me right now? And we listen to the answer. What is Spirit's idea of the good that is to manifest through me now? So we spend some time with that dialogue. We spend some time asking that question. We spend some time listening. We turn off the TV or whatever other distraction, the computer games, whatever distraction we use, and we sit for a while and just listen to that. And then the third one is bless and be grateful for all that shows up. It's God's process, not mine. It's God's process. And gratitude grows good. Gratitude is like pouring water and fertilizer and nutrients and all sorts of stuff on that cucumber plant, on that tomato plant, on that rose bush. It grows the good. That's our growth process. So I'm asking you 3 things. Number 1, get to know the power. Number 2, ask and listen. And number 3, bless and be grateful for everything that shows up. Will you do that this week? Thank you. If you do, you're going to watch your life shift. I'm going to close with a quote from Ernest in the Science of Mind textbook. The secret of prayer and its power in outward life depends upon an unconditioned faith in and reliance upon this inner presence. We must enter the closet. That is, we are to shut out all else and enter the presence of Spirit in quietness and confidence, believing. Prayer has power, not through repetition, but by belief and acceptance. So this week I invite you to delve into that, to dive into that. Into playing with that belief, that acceptance, to being a place where the power can move through you, where the word can be made flesh through you. Spirit speaks in ideas. We listen and transform them into stuff, into relationships, into healthy bodies, into a world that works for everyone, into all sorts of different things. We're the transformers. Let's pray. So I know that there is one infinite presence. There is that one power. Pure good. A love that's beyond anything we can imagine. Every mystic who has ever touched that presence has come back with that report. A divine order that is greater than anything we know, but is a perfect order. And that infinite presence moves through us. It expresses on this plane through us. Because we are in the form of God. We are that infinite presence made manifest here. We are the place where God shows up in this life. And so I speak my word that today and this week we open up to that. We say yes to that power. We say yes to our place. We let go of the small thinking. We let go of our doubt and our disbelief and our internal disputes. And we simply say, yes, I am willing to be a conduit for the good of God. I'm willing to be a conduit for the joy, for the love, for the abundance, for the health and the life energy, for the creativity and wisdom, for the kindness, the caring, the compassion. I'm willing to be a conduit for all of that. I allow it to unfold through me. I don't have to figure out the how. I listen for my own unique expression of what wants to be made manifest through me now. And I simply say, yes, I'm willing. Knowing that that manifestation blesses me and everyone and everything around me. Because that is the nature of Spirit. And so in gratitude for the good that is moving forward in everyone's life, in each and every person's life, for this, I'm ever so grateful. For the Spirit within it all, I'm ever so grateful. I call it good. And so I release this word into a law that moves it into form, that knows how to make this happen and manifests it right here, right now, in each of our lives. And it does so. And together we say, and so it is. Thank you.